So now let's see what were the initial problems we faced within my company. When I initially joined, we had about 200 manual test cases. They were stored in Excel files. So we figured out that it was not enough coverage, so we decided to write more test cases. We used a tool, Spira Test Management Tool. I don't know how many of you heard about Spira? Good. It's developed by Inflectra. It's a very good tool, and it's easy integrated with Selenium or Test Complete or other QA programming tools. So we continued the creation of manual test cases, and we stored them in Spira, where we could also have coverage. This is one of the features it provides. So 1 year later, we ended up with a portfolio of over 1,000 manual test cases. Then we figured out that we have a problem. We could not execute all of them before releases in the time frame, in a reasonable amount of time. We have sprints that are extended in 2 weeks, so every 2 weeks we have a release. So we decided to focus on automation. We extracted from the old suite 100 test cases that we consider the most relevant ones, and we started automating them. 5 QAs started automating. However, we faced yet another problem. The different programming styles led to a fragile and hard to maintain code base. And then we joined all together how we are here, and we decided what else could we do. So then we said, okay, first thing that we have to do is to document a set of best practices in Confluence. Are you using Confluence, Atlassian Confluence? Have you heard about it? Okay, it's a good tool. So then we had another problem. Nobody supervised adhering to the guidelines. So we decided to do formal code review. Code review, actually we used email and pair programming, but still this approach siloed information. It was not revealing enough. I have the following sentence for you. Code review is the discipline of discussing your code with your peers. Do you agree with it? I hope so, because this is true. Actually, this one is the main benefit of code review, that you can discuss. Discuss with your peers, the ones that are interested in what you are doing, and you will get benefit of doing that. Then we did integration with Gerrit and Git. This is something that we use, but you can use any other tool. At that moment, actually, Gerrit, you heard about Gerrit? No? Gerrit is web-based and is one of the many review tools where you can see everything that is committed. And Git, maybe for sure you've heard about it. It's used as source control system. So at that moment, reviews were done only by QAs. We still were missing something. Do you know what? We needed expertise from development. You know that developers got higher experience than us as QAs, so we asked for help from developers. Collaboration between devs and QAs help us into finding improved solution and develop the QA programming skills. We organized a set of brown bag lunch sessions where we watched technical videos. You know, we brought our own food from home, or we bought it, and we stayed at the table, we watched some technical videos, and we started discussing on them. That helped us a lot in improving our skills. By doing all this, I consider that the code review for automation reached its maturity at our company. Next, I will go with an overview over the review process. So the current review process. Currently, both QAs and developers are reviewing test automation code. We have cross-functional teams. This is an attribute of Scrum. It means that developers and QAs work together throughout the phases of the project, as opposed to be two separate entities, to have two separate sprints. Now is the sprint of development, and then when the work is done, we start the sprint of QAs. No, in fact, we have the same sprint, we start at the same time, we have tasks for QAs that are linked to the story that developers are working on. Test automation code is damp and dry. You know where these acronyms come from? Damp means detailed and meaningful phrases. It's preferred human readable code. It's easier to get up to speed and understand what is going on inside the code. Imagine a variable x. Doesn't say much, but imagine a variable that is called number of hours. Even if the length is longer, but at least you know what that variable means. So it's way better. And dry comes from don't repeat yourself. A lot of code is duplicated, Instead of extracting that part of code, put it in a different function and reuse it. So these two statements, so detailed and meaningful phrases and dry, are two techniques that we use and we try to follow. And then we have the 3D interaction between QA teams. What it actually means. Currently, I work on level 2 QA along with 5 other teams. We all review each other code, but in the same time, we have level 3 and level 4, which actually address integration and regression testing. We all do among us code review. So we are doing at the same level, and we do code review for level 3 and level 4. And the same they are doing for us. So this means 3D interaction between QA teams. So now let me ask you a question. Why do we do code review? What are the benefits of doing code review? Exactly. This is one of the reasons, to find bugs. But do you know how many bugs do we find? There have been studies showing that the level of bugs found during code review is quite low comparing to expectations. So we have the level of expectation to find bugs somewhere here, and instead we find somewhere here the number of bugs. Why is that? Because we just see a chunk of the code that is submitted, only that what was changed. We don't have the whole picture, we don't see the all functionality, so we just see few lines of code that have been written, and we correct those lines of code. This is why, for me, code review is a primary key to get better at the job, because you will have functional knowledge transfer. It improves knowledge for both reviewer and the reviewee. Share knowledge of development practices, from grounded best practices to useful tips. Share knowledge of functionality. No one is the only person that knows a specific area. It's a higher buzz factor. You've heard about buzz factor? Yes? No? Okay. Well, buzz factor, it means it's the minimum number of team members that have to suddenly disappear from the project before the project collapses due to lack of expertise and competent personnel. So imagine that we have a company where we have only one person that knows the specific areas of the code. So then we have a buzz factor of 1. In case something happens suddenly with that person, I don't know, near surgery, or is hit by a bus, that's why it's buzz factor, or he's just quitting the job, just like that. then your project is vulnerable, and you don't have a sudden replacement, so you are in big trouble. Increased team awareness. The team is more aware about what's going on around them, as what changes are taking place in the shared code. Then we have the technical knowledge transfer, being exposed to alternative solutions. For example, like using callbacks. Improves code quality. This translates to newcomers being able to contribute to the code base very fast because the code is very readable. Issues are fixed faster by anyone because the code is maintainable. And then we have bugs that are detected earlier on, leading to a reduced cost of fixing them. They are found right in the development phase. It's not after the code gets to the client and then turns back to a support issue that is raised and a new bug that is accepted and through all the development phase. So bugs does not impact the automation code because we use a pre-merge tool, the code review tool. Even so, in a commit, bugs are caught because more pair-wise are actually looking over every single line of code that you committed. So it's true, we find bugs. Okay. Now, let me tell you a few words about the rules that we applied for code review. We implemented a feedback system where we provide marks that varies from -2 to +2. Where -2, it means that this change shall not be merged. Usually it refers to a code that is broken or buggy or is incorrect. It cannot be submitted the way it is into the main code base. Then we have -1. I would prefer this is not merged as it is. It refers to a code that doesn't look right or could have been done differently. Reviewer is willing to live with it if another reviewer accepts it. So, 0, I reviewed the change, partially or in full, but I don't have an opinion yet. Or usually use when asking questions or clarifications around the code that had been changed. Suggestions have been made, but leaving up to the author to implement them or not. Then we have the +1, where it looks good to me, but someone else needs to approve it as well. And then we have the +2, reviews looks good to me, approved. But this option is only available to certain people. We call them foremen, and I will explain a bit later about this notion. The whole schema can be summarized like this. So the author creates the draft, then the change is submitted, and at that moment we have three processes that start at the same time. We have 2 processes that are automatic and 1 process that is manual. So we have the manual code review that is done by developers. By the way, in test automation, any QA is a developer, so take that into your mind. We have the developers that are doing the manual review. Then we have the review bot, a tool that detects the most commonly syntactical errors, so this one. Syntactical errors, it got behind the grammar, a dictionary, it checks the grammar, it checks white spaces, gyra links, and so on. And we have the builder, a tool that builds the code base, even if it's written in C# or Java, linked to our continuous integration server, Jenkins. You've heard about Jenkins? You did? Okay, good. So, then, after it passes the validation, we have the foreman that comes in place, and he provides a +2 if he approves the code that was submitted. And only after all this has happened, only then the code is actually merged. Now I will show you a snapshot of a code review result. So this is a Gerrit dashboard. It looks like this, where you can see that we have the -2 are marked with a big X, red X. We have the -1, highlighted with -1. Then we have several +1s, being them automatic from review bot or from different developers. And then we have the +2 that comes from a foreman, meaning that the code is validating and ready to be submitted. Now, so let me recall you what we talked so far. So we talked about the initial problem we had. We talked about when we decided to focus on automation, when we started implementing a code review process, and what were the benefits of code review, and how we interacted with developers on this. Now, as I promised, I will explain a bit the foreman role. Robert Martin, also known as Uncle Bob, you know what? You heard about Uncle Bob? Okay, you did? Okay, he's the co-author of Agile Manifesto, also known as Agile Software Development, which describes a set of practices, principles of software development under which requirements and solutions evolve through common effort on self-organizing cross-functional teams. So, the foreman on the construction site, you know what it is? The foreman is the guy that makes sure that everything goes smoothly. So he's the guy responsible for making sure the workers do the right thing. He's the guy with the tape measure that moves around and checks that the walls are properly placed. He's the guy who takes responsibility. The guy who makes sure everything is done right. So without a good foreman, the entire construction site would fall apart into chaos. So Uncle Bob came up with the idea of using foreman on the software development. So he said that we need also in software development a person that can take a decision, can approve things around. So he said that the same way we use it in construction site, like the person with responsibility, we also should have one in development. So next I will show you how we implemented this concept within my company. Okay, there are some useful readings. Maybe you'll get the presentation afterwards. So there are some useful readings from Uncle Bob's blog. Okay, so how we implemented this? We introduced a pre-merge code review tool, Gary, that we spoke about earlier. We started off with a small number of foremen. We encourage people to do as much code review as possible across multiple projects and technologies. When the quality and the quantity of threshold was reached, this was defined by some internal rules from experienced architects within my company. So when this level was reached, they got appointed foreman. I want to highlight also that this is a self-obviating system. It will reach its goal and then it will render itself useless. The goal is to have everyone within the company to be a foreman, or at least got the expertise to validate a change. Let's see how the number of foremen varied during time within my company. So we started back in 2014 with 3 foremen, as you can see over here. Then, at some point, mid-2015, we had the first QA that became a foreman. This is important because until then, we only had the developers. Then another QA and another one, and currently we have 4 QAs that became foremen within my company from the total of approximately 30 foremen that we have, from the total developers and QAs of over 100. This system is not perfect, so we had some initial problems that we faced and we tried to solve and find solutions for them. The first problem we faced was that lots of reviews were approved by a small number of people. Some initial reluctance and frustration brought about the length of the process. This process could extend on even several weeks. So frustration came in place for some of us. Coding rules and standards crystallized as more and more people were involved in the review process. But still, at the cost of persisting frustration, people were not used that their code taking that much time and their code is that much analyzed. Every single line of code is discussed, and you know, as more and more people were looking at them, more suggestions were made. But this improved. So the quality of their code improved a lot. So as we continuously try to evolve, we enhance the process with some tool improvements. We have the Gary dashboard that displays the size of the commit. Anything above 300 lines of code, we highlight in red. Usually when this happens, you might get the request to split it into smaller chunks. We did integration with Slack. You've heard about Slack? Yes. It's a communication tool. It's something similar with Skype, but much better, because you have history, you can create channels, multiple channels, you can join a channel, or you can keep it secret. So it's a very useful tool. I recommend to use it. But integration with Slack was done in an informative way. You know, on the Slack channel, we have the message that pops up when someone asks the need for a review, and it will display the line of code, the owner of the commit, existing +1s or +2, and the project. So display this useful information. And also, we implemented a funny thing called gift cards. We wanted people to be shamed in case they approve their own commits. In case they gave +1s or +2 to their own commit, then a gift card is thrown in a Slack channel, and he should be like, oh my god, what did I do? So he should be ashamed, but I guarantee you that next time he will be paying more attention before he gives the +2. So it's visible information, everyone will know, yeah. In what follows, let me give you some review tips we've been following in order to have a constructive code review process. First review tip that I want to give to you is criticize the code, not the writer. Be kind to the coder, not the code. Ask questions rather than make statements. Don't say that this code is bad, I don't like it. So ask many questions, but avoid the why questions. Why? Because the why questions is perceived in a very negative way, and you should avoid it. I will show you some example a bit later. Remember that there is often more than one way to approach a solution, so not necessarily your own solution is the best one. So you should be kind to any suggestion. Remember to praise. This is something that we always forget. So we try to enhance the process, and we introduced a like button, where in case you like a specific code or a specific comment, you can press a button, and we can make like graphs on what comment took the highest number of likes and stuff like that internally. Make a proposition instead of saying that code is bad. You shouldn't rush through a code review, but also do it promptly. So don't wait too much time before providing a feedback to the author. Format your comments to be clean and readable. Identify the people who can improve. Usually people that just join the company and they are not used with the review process. So search for these people and try to get them to a higher level of understanding of and coding. And this process should be embraced by everyone. is not something that only a senior developer should do or only a senior QA. Anyone can do code review and they will learn from this. Even if you ask a silly question, even for that, it's something that you will learn. Do not put the same question again. If you will follow these review tips, you will soon notice that you actually implemented a set of language agnostic rules without even knowing it. So the first rule is a patch must be small and contain a single work unit. A class or method should have a single responsibility. Methods must be clear and readable. And code must be clean. So let's go back. A patch must be small and relate to a single unit of work. So try to keep, as I told you, extract parts that can be reused and try to split it into smaller chunks, reuse functions, and make your code as clean as possible. Then a class or method should have a single responsibility. This is part of the solid principles. Method must be clear. I think everything is self-obviating, actually self-explanatory. Some of the lessons that we learned from code review can be summarized as follows. So, the first one and the most important one is fostering technical discussion. Create an environment that is centered around discussions about continuous improvement. Ask, don't yell. Questions like, what do you think about should be used instead of, you need to do this right now. Or, did you consider instead of, why didn't you implement it this way? Or, can you clarify as opposed to, what the hell? Try to avoid negativity. Be positive. Why didn't you just? When someone asks me, why didn't you just? Comes to me, in my mind, the first feeling is to say, why didn't you just leave me alone? Or why didn't you just go home? So, if you remove the just word from this sentence, it's already better. Why didn't you implement it this way? But if you remove also the why word and use instead any of the sentences I showed you, it will be perceived in a positive way. What to review? So, review the best practices, naming, style convention, curly braces, indentation, semicolons, and so on. Functionality and complexity. Try to follow the single responsibility principle. Sustain a strong code review culture within your organization. That will bring you a better code, better developers, team ownership, and healthy debate. Well, in summary, I suggest you to use an automated code review tool. For example, we use Gerrit and integrate it with Git, but there are plenty of other review tools that you can use. Do code review with developers in order to increase your technical knowledge. Test automation code is damp and dry. Use the single responsibility principle. Increase the buzz factor within your company, the one I told you about. So to not be vulnerable and more people to know specific areas of code or projects. Shorten feedback loops. Reduce cost by having a fast feedback, faster and timely repairs. Don't forget to maintain the lessons learned from code review. Try to document everything that you've learned. Try to document it, put it in a Confluence page so that everyone will know it in future. Share knowledge with others. So don't keep it just for you. Try to share with others and others to share the knowledge with you. It will increase your programming skills. Now, in the end, in case you have any questions, I will wait you next week back to my castle in Transylvania. No, I'm kidding. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
I have one question. You were talking about this foreman role.
Yes.
How do you call it in your team? Is there a name for it in your team for that role? Is that just the developer who does that, or who?
Yeah. So the question is how we call it within my team. Well, we call it foreman or forewoman because it might be also for woman that is doing it. And it's the guy that got the plaster right. It's the foreman is not necessary to be the person that got the highest experience with programming, but the highest experience with code review. The one that is paying attention to all the alignment, that the variables are declared in the proper location, that pieces of code were extracted and moved to a different function, so all that stuff. So it's not necessary to be the person that got the highest programming experience. Keyword.
Yes, I have a question. Just when you're beginning with code reviews, so when you're beginning with code reviews, every developer reviewing each other's code, and or just only foreman reviews at the start?
Well, at the start, we did code review, all of us. We were encouraged, all of us, to do code review, but not, it's something that you have to do it on a daily basis, but not because you have to, it's not a must, but something that you want to do in order to improve your skills and try to, because if you read someone's code, at least you will spot some spot some things that, some mistakes that he actually did and you are not doing, or something that you will learn, a way that he implemented, and you might get a benefit of using that in your code in future. Okay, so everyone was encouraged. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you specifically describe reviewers, or anybody can review any code? Do you target the code review to a specific review?
Well, it's okay to focus on the language that you know, or to target firstly, when you start code review, to firstly target the project you work on, or the project that is related to the project you work on, and then you can extend that, and because the same set of code review techniques applies to every other teams and any other projects, you can extend to other projects. Did that answer?
Well, in the system, in Jared, do you just look at any review you want and add +2 or +1, or do you get only some reviews that are meant for you?
Okay, I got your point. Okay, so in GetRead, you can create filters. You can create filters from specific projects, or you will just see from specific people if you want to target only some of your colleagues that you want to review for. So it's not necessary to review everything because you will waste a lot of time. It's something that you have to focus on. So just search for a specific project and do code review on that project, or search for a specific person and do for that person. Or if people ask for review on Slack channel, as I told you, then you can go ahead and do review, because it's something that he needs quite urgent, so he will help, you will help give a hand to him to do code review for him. Well, we looked onto several tools, but we consider that Gerrit fits best to our solutions. So it got many functionality that we like, you know, like this system that shows you the length of the review. It highlights in red in case you have you know, exceed a certain number of lines. It's easy to be adapted. So.
Are you doing not line-based code review? For example, object programming, where the objects are graphical programming interface.
Yeah, we actually do that. Especially on the project I work for, we do GUI automation. So we are based on objects, but functionality on objects. The way it's structured our project, is on 3 different levels. We have on the first level the common functionality for objects, as you said. So like click on a button or enter the text in the text area or something like that. So everything is in the common level. Then we have the business level where we have functions specific to certain views that we are currently using. And then on the third level we have the test itself. So we have the test and the regression test and performance test that we are actually using.
And what are code review tools used for this? Because there is no code text, there are only code objects. Okay, I will explain. We're using programming not on code base, but object based. I'm dragging some objects, graphical objects, and connecting them, setting the properties, and so on and so on.
Okay.
My output, programming output, is not the code, not text lines, but some generated XML.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah. When an object gets changed, usually we recapture it using the test complete. So it's a functionality that is provided by the test tool that we use, test complete, and that the object that is recaptured, I don't know, a property, a text name, actually a property like all a value that got changed. So this we have to recapture the object and then commit the new object on the code base. So we rely on the test complete. So we're not parsing what property was changed, and no, it's something that we rely on. We use this tool. Yeah, go ahead.
I was more involved about hearing from you about the culture. How much time do you spend on code review, and how does your management, what attitude, what attitude does your management have towards your code review?
Yeah, it was something approved by the management from very beginning. They agreed that this might delay the release because, you know, as I told you, the code review can take several weeks. It took at beginning, but now it takes only several days at maximum. On QA, it takes only like maximum. Per commit. If you have a commit, and until you have the validation of the all developers and you all agree on the best solution for your code, it takes, I don't know, from a couple of hours up to several days. So, like this. Until you do the change and then everyone agrees on it and you have discussion. So, the main idea is to foster discussion around the code.
Have you made some measurements about how this changed, the final product? Because at the management level, all we care is the product itself. I mean, okay, we have some bugs and the quality may be lower, but we need the product, and as fast as we can.
Yeah, actually, we had a lot of debates on that, and management was not pleased at the very beginning about the new process because it delayed a lot, and instead of fixing 10 bugs, we only fixed like 3 bugs a sprint. But that was something that was understood, and you need the approval of management in order to do that. But you have to highlight the benefits in time of doing it, because in time everyone will increase their code quality. So the code that they will write. So.
But you haven't done any measurement, did you? Like,
well, not me personally, but I think at the higher level management, they are willing to do any graphs and. Yeah, go ahead.
How much time and people it took for you to move from 1,000 manual cases to fully automated?
We work 5 QAs on that project. So 5 QAs for 1.5 years approximately, because we had to build the common basement, the common functionality library, the framework, and only afterwards we could start really implementing. Okay. In case you don't, okay, one more.
How do you learn from the bugs which goes to production? Do you have a feedback for, let's say, reviewers, which led to the code which actually was the bug, ended up as a bug in the production?
Yeah, how, in case a bug is raised in production and it's turned back, we have a regression and we highlight it in Jira. You know, we usually reopen an older case and then more people get involved. Why did it appear? Why we didn't discover it with test automation? First thing that we try to follow is look on the automated tests that we have and try to modify them in order to prevent such bug to reappear in future. So this is the first thing, and then we try to include it in the smoke test so that we run, on a daily basis. We run nightly, and on the next morning we see. So in case someone do a change on the code base that will make the bug reappear, we'll see right away, and we'll not do the release until the bug is fixed. We'll delay the release, or at least we'll do the release but put it as a known issue. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.